She was 3. She loved the beach. She vanished from a holiday flat while her parents dined nearby, and the world never forgot her name. This is Madeleine McCann. In 2025, the story has new edges. Targeted searches near Praia da Luz, a man publicly named by prosecutors as their prime suspect, and searches that used ground-penetrating radar. Tonight, we map the freshest timeline and explain precisely what investigators found and what they did not. It began as a simple family holiday. Praia da Luz, sun, sand, a rented apartment. Kate and Jerry McCann on a short break with friends, a group later known as the Tapas Group. On the night of May 3rd, 2007, they had dinner a few minutes away. They left their children asleep in their flat and took turns checking them. The last normal images are ordinary: toys on a carpet, a child's pair of shoes by a bed. At an early check, Madeleine's bed was empty and a window was open. Those two images, the open window and the empty bed, are the photographs that pushed this from a local alarm into a global story. In missing person cases, the first hours are everything. Witnesses are fresh. Forensic traces are least degraded. But that night, the scene was chaotic. Neighbors, resort staff, and volunteers moved around the apartment. Journalists arrived. Evidence handling did not match what modern protocols require. That confusion shaped the long-run investigation. Within days, the story went worldwide. Posters, television appeals, and hundreds of volunteers swarmed the Algarve. The volume of tips exploded, and so did the problem of tip noise. Thousands of leads, most unverifiable, some outright false. That global attention kept resources and pressure on investigators. It also complicated local work. Every unverified sighting had to be chased, every rumor checked. The case moved from Praia da Luz into living rooms across the world. And once a story reaches that size, it reshapes the investigation itself. The UK government eventually opened a formal review, Operation Grange, to support and re-examine leads. That unit would keep the file alive for years. A key reason this story stayed in headlines and search queries long after the first headlines faded. Operation Grange re-interviewed witnesses, chased untested tips, and coordinated with Portuguese and German authorities when necessary. Its continued funding into the 2020s shows this case stayed an official priority, not only for family campaigners, but for governments. A major turning point came when German prosecutors publicly identified a man, widely reported in English as Christian Bruckner, as a suspect. Prosecutors said they had concrete indications linking him to the region at the time. In public statements, they said they believed Madeleine was dead and that evidence tied the suspect to the Algarve in 2007. This public naming changed the story's shape. It focused headlines, it justified new, targeted searches, and it created intense public interest and debate. But it also raised a critical legal point that many people misunderstand. Named is not the same as charged or convicted. Prosecutors can say they have strong evidence and still lack the forensic chain a court requires. In cross-border cases that involve separate legal systems, privacy protections, and different evidentiary rules, prosecutors may publicize a suspect while they continue to build a case. That's what happened here. Strong suspicion, public statements, but legal limits remain. Put another way, investigators can have a coherent narrative that points to a person, but without testable forensic proof that will hold up in court, a conviction is impossible. That gap between what investigators believe and what courts require is the source of enormous public frustration. In 2025, investigators return to the field with modern tools: ground-penetrating radar to find disturbed soil, heavy machinery to excavate targeted sites, and forensic teams on standby to process anything recovered. These were not random walks. They were legal, careful searches tied to new leads, cell site analysis, and re-examined witness statements. GPR can reveal anomalies under the earth. A digger strips topsoil. Forensic teams sample and preserve traces. But 2 decades of weather, construction, and human activity make the recovery of conclusive evidence difficult. As of the most recent public updates, the 2025 digs did not produce a single item that publicly closed the case. Searches that return no aha moment are not futile. They eliminate areas, test witness claims, and sometimes produce small artifacts that prompt new tests. They also force agencies to coordinate, to share data, and to reopen older lines of questioning under modern methods. Those incremental steps can add up. But for the public hungry for a single headline, the reality can be frustrating. Modern investigations are often a chain of small, methodical advances rather than a single dramatic discovery. In September 2025, the man publicly named as the prime suspect was released from a German prison after completing a sentence for an unrelated crime. His release generated immediate public reaction, shock, anger, and renewed calls for justice. Legally, the release concerned a different sentence, not the McCann case. But the optics and community response were intense. When a suspect leaves prison, investigators face new operational decisions: containment, surveillance possibilities, and legal rights. The release also spurs campaigners and the public to demand transparency. But it does not erase the core evidentiary problem. To secure a conviction, prosecutors still need admissible forensic-grade proof. Why is prosecution so hard? First, evidence standards. Courts require proof beyond reasonable doubt. Second, jurisdiction and procedure. Cross-border cases involve extradition and complex legal cooperation. Third, contamination and chain of custody. When scenes or items weren't preserved in 2007, modern labs often cannot accept them as reliable. These 3 factors are not political excuses. They are legal reality. They explain why a named suspect can remain uncharged for years. Modern forensic tools have cracked many cold cases. forensic genealogy, enhanced image analysis, even chemical soil tests. In this case, investigators used advanced cell site analysis, image re-examination, and targeted fieldwork. But the usefulness of these tools depends on available raw data. If the original inputs are incomplete or contaminated, the outputs will be limited. So the public should be realistic. Tech can help, and sometimes it will produce breakthroughs. But often, it narrows the field incrementally rather than delivering a single dramatic resolution. People are searching 3 questions now. Is a suspect named? Did the 2025 searches find her? Is the investigation still active? Short answers: yes. A suspect was publicly identified by German prosecutors. No, the 2025 searches did not produce a publicly disclosed case-closing find. And yes, the investigation remains active in official channels. We'll link official statements and news reporting in the description, so you can read those documents yourself. Beyond headlines is the human cost. Kate and Jerry McCann have campaigned tirelessly, kept Madeleine's image visible, and encouraged donors and volunteers to help. Public sympathy has been huge, but so has scrutiny. The couple's visibility helped sustain the search, but also exposed them to criticism and conspiracy theories. For families in long-term missing person cases, public campaigning is both lifeline and burden. Responsible coverage must recognize that grief while pressing for facts. If you make a video about this case now, label opinion clearly. Cite reputable sources, mainstream outlets, official statements, the Find Madeleine campaign, and public prosecutor releases. Avoid reproducing unverified sightings or naming unproven allegations as fact. And always include a clear disclaimer. If a viewer messages you claiming a sighting, ask for specific verifiable details: date, time, a photo, and direct them to official investigators. Don't repost unverified tips that can spawn false leads. The 2025 searches and the public naming of a suspect change the investigative landscape, but they do not guarantee a result. They do, however, keep archives open, prompt fresh interviews, and sometimes flush out witnesses. Each methodical step narrows possibilities and preserves the chance that a decisive piece of evidence may yet emerge. The realistic routes to closure remain one of 3 things: a verifiable physical discovery, a confession, or legal breakthroughs that allow circumstantial patterns to form a court-grade case. What do you think is the most likely path to closure? Vote in the pinned comment: A. Physical discovery, B. New testimony, C. Legal breakthrough, D. Other. We'll pin the most persuasive reply and follow up in a later video. If you have credible information, contact Operation Grange, Portugal's Polícia Judiciária, or the official Find Madeleine campaign. Do not post unverifiable claims on social media. After nearly 2 decades, the Madeleine McCann case sits between 2 truths. Someone knows something, and proving it is different from knowing it. The 2025 activity keeps that search alive. It sharpens some questions and leaves others blunt. A headline that reads, "Found," would end the waiting. Investigators want evidence that stands up in court. Both aims are necessary. If you share this video, please use facts, not rumors. If you have information, pass it to official investigators, not to comment threads. The difference between a useful tip and a viral rumor can mean the difference between closure and another lost year. Thank you for watching. If you want the follow-up, the deep dive on the 2025 searches and the legal hurdles, like and subscribe. We'll collect the best sourced tips and return with documents and timelines in the next episode.